Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and especially because I just had surgery on the back of my head. And welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie noob nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Today's ink I have in sample form. It's by Noodler's Golden Brown. And had some weird stuff going on with this ink. And part of why I picked it was because I very much loved Noodler's Kiowa Pecan, and in sort of the sample swabs that I was looking at online, Golden Brown seemed to be the next lighter one, and I thought it would be fun to check that out. However, this one turned out to be just a little too light for my comfortable reading. And also, just as a revision for something for Kiowa Pecan, I've noticed over time there does tend to be a bit of a sediment problem. Sort of the stuff at the very base of Kiowa Pecan, sometimes it takes some effort, a little bit more effort than I knew before to fully clean it out. There is something, I don't know, it's almost like heavy that sits at the bottom, a little harder to clean out. And that's actually something I found similar with Golden Brown as well. I don't know if we'll notice when I tip it upside down, but you see all that darkness sort of clinging at the top of the cone up there? Yeah, that tends to also gather in feeds and things, so there is just a teeny bit more effort required in cleaning this ink, as well as Kiowa Pecan, so yeah, thought I'd compare it to a few other things. Here's Noodler's Golden Brown here. Here's Diamine Golden Brown. Private Reserve Shoreline Gold. I think this is the original formulation. I think they changed it recently. Noodler's Yellow. Incredibly vibrant. Diamine's Blaze Orange. Géoband's Ombre de Burmanie, Diamine Sunset, and Diamine Orange. So, yeah, there you go. The pens that I used were first this Platinum Preppy, which is a medium. It's 05. I put it in this one just to try it out, and then I decided, you know, I should have more variation, and I put it in this Lamy Safari with a 1.1 nib. But I had it in this one for about, might have been 2 weeks before I decided to put it in this one. I was playing around with it, I was enjoying it before I sat down to do the tests. And there was a distinct difference in color and performance, and we'll see that in the tests between these two pens. Here's the chromatography. You can see where the initial drop was put. There's sort of that dark, smudgy sort of halo with pink at the middle. And then more pink and smudgy, and then this bright gold. So that's interesting. And then here's where I let it dry, which is not how you're supposed to do chromatography. You can see sort of the, instead of the smudgies, it's just sort of a darkness with pink at the center and more pink, and then sort of this almost tarnishy green, and then more bright gold. So, yeah. Ugh, sorry. Being intubated sucks. Anyways, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Yeah, there you go. As you might be able to tell, particularly right here, now this was the Preppy, and this was the Lamy, and so this one had been in the pen about 2 weeks, and this one was pretty fresh. As you can see, there's almost like that green smudgy tarnishy thing going on. That becomes much more pronounced when it was in the pen longer. Also, the fresher ink took much longer to dry. Now this is a larger nib, and it is a bit wetter because Preppies do tend to be fairly dry. But there is a very, very big difference in dry times. Now this is a golden brown. In fact, I might just call it a gold, like the actual, you know, element, metal. It looks very much like gold. It's, you know, bright yellow, almost orangey. There's not much brown except in the sort of more tarnishy looking one. There is a lot of shading. Now, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread. There's no sheen. It's all good on this paper in that regard. In fact, I'd be surprised if there was echo considering how light the ink is. This ink is a bit too light for my comfortable reading, so I wouldn't write with it much. However, the color is rather enjoyable. Now, here's the water test. It is quite messy, but here's another thing that's different between the Lamy with the fresh ink and the Preppy with the older ink. You see how there's that dark gray very clearly there, not washing away, whereas even what's at the center of this, very much washed away. Curious, right? It's kind of weird. Next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where again, very distinct difference in dry times. Preppy took 10 seconds, Lamy took 22, and a distinct difference in color. Very odd. Now, yeah, there's lots of shading. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no sheen. Again, no echo, but this is incredibly light ink. And again, we see that weird difference in the water test, where the older stuff is darker and clearer. Very curious. Next is Tomoe River, where Tomoe River loves to draw out dry times, and it certainly did that here. It also loves to really bring out shading, which it did. Now, the Preppy took 16 seconds, which is the longest it's taken so far, but the Lamy took 27. And you still have that very distinct, more of a green hint in the Preppy than you do in the Lamy, which is still very much a bright, vibrant, yellowy gold. Now, there is beautiful shading here, but still, it's a bit too light for my comfortable reading. As you can see, since the Lamy took so long to dry, all the dots were smearing. But yeah, again, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no sheen, and no echo on here even though, you know, this is obscenely thin paper. So if you're very sensitive to that and you don't mind very light inks, definitely try this one. Again, the water test, same thing, where the Preppy has the darker writing at the center that doesn't want to wash off, but the Lamy doesn't have that, so, Next up is 20-pound copier paper, where I only used the Preppy, because it's the drier writing nib, except to write the name. Here, you still get a touch of that green undertone, which is a little odd, but still. So it took 2.5 seconds to dry. Yeah, there's a lot of spread. If we look at the difference in line width here versus here, it got a lot broader. Something to be aware of. But, yeah, I mean, there's like the barest hint of echo. Okay, so that's with the Lamy, so I say disregard that. But you don't get any bleed through. You don't even get echo, so that's rather impressive. There is spread, there is some feathering. Actually, it's mostly just sort of an intense woolliness, but yeah. Again, you get a lot of that yellow sort of spreading off, but what's at the center is very dark and very there. This is a more absorbent paper, it tends to draw the ink in, so it's harder to wash all of it out. But yeah, if you had to, you could recover that because what's at the center is very dark, very clear. However, I can't guarantee those results if the ink was fresh like it was in the Lamy. Curious. Here's Mead Notebook Paper, where again, only use the Preppy except to write the name. Took 3 seconds to dry. You still get that green undertone. You do get some spread, but it's not quite as bad as it was with the 20-pound copier paper. Yeah, it's, you don't really get bleed, which is rather nice, but a Preppy, okay, so that's with the Lamy. Preppies are very moderate, they're fairly dry, so something to be aware of. I can't explain this, it's very odd. It's sort of baffled me. And again, I don't know if the Lamy with the fresh ink would have done this, but the Preppy has that dark ink at the center, still very there, whereas the yellow mostly wants to wash away, which is kind of curious. So, now, lastly is Moleskine Notebook Paper, where I cannot explain why, but it took 7 seconds to dry. It does have a bit of a woolliness to it, but you don't really get feathers, which is odd for this ink. You get sort of like that wet wool texture, but you don't get actual feathers shooting off of the writing. You still get a bit of shading. I just knocked the camera, I apologize. You still get a green undertone, which is a bit odd. And this paper hates water. It reacts very weirdly. But even here, and I don't know if the Lamy would do this, but the Preppy has that dark central writing that is still very there, and the yellow just washes away. So, yeah, so there you go. There's Noodler's Golden Brown. It's a mystery. When it gets older, it gets greener, and yet it gets more water resistant, and it has this silty kind of problem, so maybe something to be aware of. Yeah, so clean your pens, be diligent. It's a lot lighter than I was expecting, so yeah. For your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.